across the board. Welcome into Madden On The Line, presented by CrossCheck Media on the Biz Talk State TV network. I'm your host, Jo Madden, and today we're talking, it's all about NFL. You guys know it. 2 weeks of NFL preseason are officially behind us, and now I'm willing to react. Not to the scores, not to those records, and definitely not to every August superstar that we're going to forget about come October. I'm reacting to what we've actually learned out there in these first 2 weeks. Now, Cleveland has finally made a big decision. Deshaun Watson is week number 1, starting quarterback. Cam Ward and the Titans offense still has questions after another difficult preseason performance. You guys, that was mind-blowing. And the 49ers, well, guess what? George Kittle is coming back. Roster decisions are starting, and after 2 weeks of actual football, the air is finally able for us to talk about, right? Like, there's a lot of things to go over. Have we seen anything that's really going to change the regular season? Has to be the question that we ask ourselves now, because in about 2 weeks, nobody gets to say it's only preseason. Matt Perrault will be joining me in the next 10 minutes, and we're talking everything we've learned, and we're putting those bigger pictures together. Division races, season expectations, teams we're buying, teams we're questioning, NFL futures, and ultimately, who actually has a path to the Super Bowl. But first, let's get to today's money movers, you guys. And of course, money mover number 1, this is where we have to go. With Cleveland, right? We have to turn to this breaking news. The quarterback competition, at least for week 1, is over. Deshaun Watson has been named QB number 1 for the Cleveland Browns over Shedeur Sanders. And I think the conversation just got much more interesting. If you think that was the right decision or not is another question. I don't think it is, because if you watch Saturday against Buffalo, you could absolutely make the argument that Sanders had a much better afternoon. Sanders went 9 of 11 for 74 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception off a tip ball. Watson went 5 of 12 for 35 yards and an interception. But Todd Monken made it very clear here on Sunday. He came out and said this decision wasn't made because of one preseason game. It was about the entire body of work. Practices, joint practices, preseason, everything. And today, Cleveland made that decision. Here's where I land with it. Naming Watson the starter doesn't end the quarterback story at all, in my opinion. It changes the quarterback story, because now we're not asking who gets a job. We're asking, how long is the leash? And I think that is the biggest question here in Cleveland. What happens if Watson struggles early? I'm not buying that he's going to be strong enough out there on the field. Shedeur standing on the sidelines, every incompletion is going to make the conversation louder. We know the fans are already booing Watson. How long does Todd Monken put up with the hate that he's getting with Deshaun Watson being that starter? Cleveland's made a choice. Now Deshaun Watson has to make sure that Todd Monken doesn't regret it. And I want to know from you guys how long you think Watson's leash is going to be out there, because this is something I am definitely carrying in to week 1 of the regular season. Your money mover number 2, we got to turn to the Tennessee Titans here, because they beat Seattle 19-16 Sunday. Yeah, cool. I don't care. I thought they would have come out stronger in the first half. And this is where my huge concern comes with the Tennessee Titans, because the story was about what happened with that offense, with those starters on the field. Cam Ward finished 8 of 12 for 69 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, which is good. But here's the part that really stood out. Ward was better than his previous week, so we have to give him that, where he just went 5 of 12 in that previous week. But Tennessee's starting offense didn't look comfortable at all, and Ward was playing against Seattle's backups, you guys. It wasn't even Seattle's starters out there, and that's worth talking about. Now, before somebody turns this into a Joe thinks Cam Ward is a bust, stop. I absolutely don't. That's not what I'm saying. Young quarterbacks, they're supposed to struggle here in preseason. This is where I want to see them work things out. I want to see them make those mistakes, and I'm watching for them to improve from those mistakes that they had in the prior week. I'm looking for them not to make the same mistakes the next. So to learn from their mistakes, and we'll see if Sam Ward is able to do that and everything that he's able to bring to the table in week 3. Because I tell you, that offense really has to get clicking from what we saw. Because against the backups are Seattle, they only were able to put up 10 points on 6 drives. We should have seen more out of the Tennessee Titans offensively in that matchup, not just in the second half. And then I think your preseason mover number 3 here is we've got to look at some of these, and you've got to look at the preseason final scores and how they kind of lie to you. This is what I don't want you guys to look at. These preseason final scores taking into week 1. Yeah, Dallas beat Arizona 34-13. San Francisco beat the Chargers 41-17. Atlanta beat Indianapolis 34-6, and the Jets shut out Pittsburgh 17-0. Does that mean the Jets are suddenly a Super Bowl team? No, absolutely not. It means Pittsburgh definitely has problems on that offensive line. If you watch Jones, he allowed 5 pressures, 2 sacks out there. Keeping up Aaron Rodgers is going to be pivotal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They need to work out why the Jets were able to break through that offensive line. They need to make those adjustments going into week 3. I want you guys to not look at the scores. They're a distraction out there. I want you to look at the full body of work, what those depth players were able to do late in those games. If the starters came out like the Titans and had those struggles, didn't look comfortable out there on the field, there's a lot of question marks around those teams, and that's definitely where you need to look. Now, there was quarterbacks that came out, like Jordan Love. He came out, he led that opening touchdown against Denver. That's also useful, looking at those positive when those starters came out as well. Caleb Williams and that offense weren't perfect, but he still looked like he was able to control that huddle out there, which is something I want to see. We know Caleb Williams has to make that next step, get control of his team and see what he's able to do with it. He needs to be a leader of the guys, not just in the locker room, but also on the field. And we'll see if he can make that next step this season. And then your next money mover, it's got to be about George Kittle and how he really changes the 49ers conversation. Now, with him being reinstated, we're seeing here that he's looking to play week 1 with against the Rams there in Melbourne. So that's huge because Kittle's just not another receiving option, right? He's such a target out there for the 49ers, and it changes how San Francisco can play football. He blocks, he creates those mismatches out there on the field, and he changes those personnel decisions. So I'm excited for the 49ers getting Kittle back. We know what a weapon he is. Don't look at the fact that the 49ers won 41-17 over the Chargers. Look at the news coming out of the 49ers that George Kittle is getting back. And your last money mover before we bring Matt Perrault in is we're talking preseason and how real it gets right now, because those roster cuts are right around the corner. This is where August gets absolutely cruel. Teams across the whole league are ready to make those moves, cutting their roster back to 53. And this is where every snap we're watching suddenly means something. Look here in week 3. Look at these guys battling it out, getting those last opportunities to make the roster, what we're going to see out of them, because that fourth quarter you absolutely can't ignore. It may be meaningless for you watching it out there, but it's not meaningless for those players who are playing for their job. So every special team rep absolutely matters. Every blocked, every missed assignment, every tackle, every route, and every preseason play becomes evidence inside the meeting rooms. And this is what these coaches are going to be looking at before they make those cuts. And with that, we're going to turn to talking Super Bowl, everything that we need to know going into the season. Matt Perrault's takeaways thus far of preseason, what he's bringing into week 3, what he's looking at in week 1, everything all the way to who he has winning it all this season. Let's bring in Matt Perrault.
Well, hello. How are you?
Welcome to the show, Matt. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Good to see you. It's been a while, Joe. Congratulations on the new show. I've been watching and checking it out. Very good stuff. And it's football season. So Baseball's been interesting, and I'm very happy to see football arrive here. And I guess for you guys up there, it's been there for a while, but for us down here, football starting.
Well, I'm not sure if we really can count the CFL as real football, Matt. That's something I debate on the daily. It's fun to watch sometimes, but when you get an extra point for a missed field goal, I really can't call that football. But let's jump into the NFL. Week 1, week 2 of the preseason are under our belts. Anything that you're taking away thus far? Any team that's really disappointed you or surprised you with some of those depth players?
No, I think you hit the nail right on the head talking about final scores cannot tell the story or don't tell the story about much of what's going to happen in the regular season. I think that my biggest takeaway is we used to see teams decide not to play the ones. And so you had the twos that played a lot. Well, now we have teams that have decided that we're not playing the ones, but we're also not playing the twos. And so you're getting third, fourth, and fifth string guys who are out there, in particular in the third and the fourth quarter, that it's something that next year I really have to take more stock of because I had games handicapped it, and they handicapped well in the first half and should just bet the first half, but I bet the full game. And then come the fourth quarter, things got totally crazy. And some of the scores we've seen, I mean, the first week it was 12-4 to the under. Week 2, we had scoring all over the place. I'm not sure what happens in week 3, but I think just teams' disdain for the preseason and their focus on the joint practices, that I think is a pretty big key going forward.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see those decisions out of those joint practices with what those coaches have been doing because it's more of a controlled environment out there. We already know injuries are starting to pile up. We look at Ashton Genty of the Raiders there, and his injury just looks like a sprain. But Matt, how long do you think it is before the league goes, there's no more preseason?
Yeah, the first thing I did when I saw that news break, I've got friends of mine that cover the Raiders, and I was sending out text messages saying like, "Hey, what happened?" And the response I got back was, "It didn't look good." So the fact that it came back as a sprain and not a knee injury, I know people are saying that that's a benefit, that like that's a phew. I don't know if I'd go that far because if it's a high ankle sprain, that could be a multiple week, multiple month type injury. Like I don't think Ashton Genty is safe to play. You know, if you're a fantasy player, I don't think you got out of the woods here by saying it's a sprained ankle versus a knee injury because he couldn't put any weight on it when he came off the field. So that's a big worry. I think there's too much money at stake, and the owners are going to have to be willing for the betterment of the game to say we're not going to play preseason. We're going to focus on the joint practices, and maybe there's a way to be compensated some way so it's not a gigantic hit. But for a long time, fans have been asked to pay those tickets to go watch fake football for the rights to buy tickets to watch real football.
Yeah.
And for the most part, fans have said, okay. But I think as we go to expand to 18, 19, 20 games, depending upon what we wound up with, as we look to go to play multiple games overseas, I do think the preseason is going to be a thing of the past, probably in the next decade.
Yeah, especially when you start adding up all those injuries across the board. We know Jeremiah Love did go out in a preseason game here, and then the Chargers, just in practice, joint practices, did lose their center, Beata. So it's going across the board. Injuries are definitely adding up. But you brought up a good point with the expansion out there of these travel games. We've heard that they're hoping to start teams overseas. Like, are you really seeing European teams? I know with the taxes and everything, that's going to be a headache for the league and for those players too, Matt.
Yeah, I think I've come around on this because initially I was really anti the international games, and I still don't like the international games. I can't believe we're sending the Rams and the 49ers overseas to play in Melbourne, Australia. I know that's partial to you, but it's still ridiculous that we're sending a football game between those two teams, which are two of the best teams in the NFC, to go play overseas. I don't believe that divisional games should be sent overseas. I think those should be home and home because they're so crucial and they're so important to the season. So I would say that would be my first move as commissioner to do that. But I think if we put a division in Europe, I think I'd be interested. And just because of the travel, and if you look at how far, and I fly back and forth on the East Coast of the United States to the West Coast all the time, the flight from Boston to Vegas, depending on which direction I'm going, but if I'm going from Vegas to Boston, it's 4.5 hours. So it's not awful. You go from Boston to London, and that's 5.5 hours. That's not that far. So the flight or the travel time doesn't really make any sense to me. That argument kind of is out the window. So to me, it comes down to, like you're talking about, the taxes, the implications there. But if you have multiple teams over there, you can go over there and play 2 games and then come back. You can just stay over there and not come back. So if we're going to do it, we got to really do it. I'm not interested in having one team like taking the Jags and putting them in London. I don't think that works. But I think you could do it as a division, which means we are far, far away from that happening.
Yeah, we're definitely far away from that. And as you talk about those teams going down to Australia, I know from personal experience that is such a hard trip to take down there. But what is worse, Matt, is coming back and those teams
Mm.
coming back from that trip because the time change and the difference there. And it's interesting because my brother lives in Melbourne and he was looking to go to that game. And he's like, just to get in the building, the nosebleeds, the worst seats. $600 Australian for him to get in the door. So he's not making it.
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't think I'd be shelling out to see a regular season game in the NFL. But I've heard that the park that they're playing at is so famous in Melbourne for rugby and for cricket that an NFL 100 yards is going to look like a postage stamp with the size of that entire playing surface. So I am curious how the NFL is going to do that, because are we going to have like portable stands? Are we going to have like, or are the players going to be really far away from the crowd, which could really, from an American standpoint, look very strange to us. So I'm curious to see how that park is set up.
Yeah, from the looks of it, from he showed me with the tickets and those seatings, it looks like they're just having the seating as they normally do in
Wow.
that arena. And, people are going to be so far off. It's going to be binoculars for sure for most of the people in there, Matt. But let's jump back into everything. We're going into week 3. Is there any teams you've got circled that you're looking for a little bit more here in week 3?
For preseason, no, because this is the danger day, right? I mean, because the NFL in week 3, go back like 10 years ago, this would be week 4, where no one plays, no one cares, and everybody who's playing is a State Farm salesman in 2 weeks. So like, it is, week 3 is a danger. If you're betting heavy in week 3 of the NFL preseason, bless you, because you got bigger than me, because I don't want to go near these games, because we're getting ready for cut down day and we're getting ready for these players who are going to be trying to just find a home somewhere, and a roster. It's really hard to find your way onto a 54-man roster in the NFL. So week 3 is a tough one to bet. I would be careful about going deep and going heavy in week 3 of the NFL preseason.
Yeah, definitely some great advice there. Let's turn to something we know. Cleveland, Deshaun
Hmm.
Watson, QB number 1, week 1. How long is his leash, Matt? Because I don't think it's long.
I think they have no choice but to play him, and I think there's a couple of reasons why. I think the first is you can't start Sanders and then bench him for Deshaun Watson. That's too difficult and too controversial with the fan. So it's easier to start Deshaun Watson and then replace him with Sanders for the rest of the year. So I think that's the first decision, saying, okay, let's just start him in game 1. The first 2 games are on the road. So you've got 2 trips to Florida, and then you have a home game in week 3. If you're 0-2 and you're going back home for the home opener with Deshaun Watson, it's going to get pretty nasty in that building. If they're 2-0 though, and they've beaten the Jaguars, they've beaten the Bucks. I mean, it's not crazy. I don't think they're going to, but let's just say they're 2-0. That building is a lot more friendly, let's call it that, for Deshaun Watson to go out there and play. So I think that's their thought. If he's really bad, bench him. I don't know. I think probably he goes the first month. If they're 0-4, he gets benched and they go to Sanders. But if they play really poorly on offense in the first 2 road games, I could see them starting Sanders in week 3.
Yeah, and I love your point. I think you made a great point. They can't start Sanders and then bench him for Watson. And I loved that press interview, even though I laughed at Shedeur Sanders saying he didn't know he had to be the captain of the coin toss as well. That's just an innocent young player out there not realizing. And it was kind of cute, Matt. I'm not going to lie, his innocence. But What about futures? When we look across the board, is there any win totals that you're targeting this upcoming season?
Yeah, I'm like everybody else. I think the Arizona Cardinals under 4.5 was the best bet of the preseason. That number now is 3.5, and I don't really hate 3.5 because I'm hard pressed to find 3 wins for the Cardinals going forward. Their schedule just is so difficult. Their bye week is so late. They have so many playoff caliber teams they have to play. They're playing in the toughest division in the NFL. I think Arizona, whether it be Jacoby Brissett or whether they go with Carson Beck, it doesn't really matter to me. They want to lose. And there's going to be 3 teams that will actively tank this year: the Jets, the Browns, and the Cardinals. I don't mind betting under on all 3 of their win totals because I don't think any of them want to win more than 2 or 3 football games. And so even 3.5 for the Cardinals, which is what the market is right now, I don't mind it. I'm a Patriot fan. I'm not going to lie. I'm on the over 9.5 wins. I know
I
everyone
love it.
says hangover for the Super Bowl, but look, 10 wins and going 10-7. I think people have to remember that the extra game when it comes to betting win totals, it's a big deal. 10-7 is not really a great season. It puts you like in the conversation for a wild card. It most likely doesn't win the division. And I mean, they're playing with the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins in the division. There's 4 wins right there for Jets and Dolphins. So you just got to go out there and find 6 more wins for the Patriots to get to 10. So
Yeah.
I like over. And then my hot take is I like the Bills under 11.5. And I know
Ooh.
nobody in Canada likes that, but I like the Bills. I don't like Joe Brady. Okay. I'm not in on this hire. I think the firing of Sean McDermott was a mistake. And I think they overreacted because of the new stadium they're opening in Buffalo, and they felt like they had to make a change. Handing over the prime years of Josh Allen to a guy who's never been a head coach before, and that defense being suspect at times, I'm just not in on the Buffalo Bills. Their schedule is really difficult in the beginning and the end. The middle is a little bit easier, but I think they could win the division going 11-6. So under 11.5 wins for Buffalo, I like a lot.
Ooh, that's a bold one, but I can completely understand where you're going with that one. I have to ask you about the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and if you think, because we're seeing the odds continue to fall here for the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. They were sitting right around 1100. I'm seeing them now plus 1600. Do you think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes can come out, take the AFC West, and make a run?
No, I don't. And I think this is a team holding on for the past. You're talking about a quarterback coming back off an ACL injury, and Mahomes is incredible, but he's going to be limited. I mean, look at Tom Brady when he came back after his knee injury. The very next year, Tom Brady took a while to get comfortable in the pocket, stepping up, throwing off the front leg, and having it be exposed. That's going to be, I think, just in the beginning part of the year for Patrick Mahomes. Then you have to talk about Travis Kelce. I don't know why he came back. I think he's just trying to find some, way of departing that makes it look like it was the right time. He should have walked last year. I mean, I know he always says he loses weight in camp, but he showed up as a big guy. Okay. He got married. He did the banquet circuit, literally.
Yeah.
I don't know how much left Travis Kelce has. They've got players getting arrested and spending time in jail. Their schedule is really difficult. They're in the toughest division in the AFC. I think under 10.5 wins is a good bet with Kansas City. I think people are overvaluing them because it is Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, but I don't have really high expectations for the Chiefs this year.
Okay. Two teams. Who do you think is making the Super Bowl, Matt?
I think we're going to see a repeat of the last time we were at SoFi. I think it's Bengals Rams, and I think the Rams win it again. And I think that there is an opportunity for Cincinnati to, and I can't stand Zach Taylor. I do not like him as a head coach. But if they
I
keep Joe
remember that.
Burrow, yeah, if they keep Joe Burrow healthy and upright, I think we've spent a lot of time talking about other teams in the AFC, not the Bengals. And I think they remind all of us that, oh, right, when Burrow has Chase and they're healthy, they're a really big problem. And they spent a lot of money on the defense in the offseason trying to rectify it and fix it. I think they'll hit. Bengals Rams repeat of the Super Bowl back in SoFi 5 years ago.
Let's go. Hopefully, we can get the same halftime show because that halftime show was
Oh, that's
elite
right.
as well. It
That was
was
good.
fantastic, Matt. What was
That was
that?
great.
Snoop and everyone, Missy, and yeah, it was a great one. But Matt, you have so much going on. Let everyone know where they can check out everything you've got going on.
Sure. Easiest place is on X at Sports Talk Match. Pushing the Odds is live 11 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. And I host the Daily Juice podcast, which is a podcast for 365 days a year. So if you like a 15-minute little quick pick podcast, we do that as well with betting pros. But best place is at Sports Talk Matt on X.
Yeah, check them out, you guys. Matt, thanks so much for joining me here. All the best this NFL season.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You guys, that was Matt Perrault. Make sure you go on over and give him a follow. He's got that great Daily Juice show that you don't want to miss out on. Like you said, 365 days a year. He's not missing a beat with that show, and it's absolutely something that you want to check out, as well as everything else he's got going on. So you guys, let's jump back into where I'm going to go. There's some things to go over. I've got 3 things that I'm done with after 2 weeks of preseason. So let's jump into those 3 things. 1, preseason records. I'm deleting them. I don't care. Calling a rookie after 6 quarters a bust, that's something that has to stop, because these rookies, they need time to develop. And then 3, turning every August breakout into the next superstar. Just like you can't judge a rookie after 6 quarters for not being great, you can't judge a rookie for being great in 6 quarters either. Let that rookie make the roster and let's see how they do in the regular season. Preseason isn't meaningless, but your interpretation of preseason, if you're not reading it right, absolutely could be. So here we are in August, and what has August actually given us thus far? After 2 weeks, you guys, it's given us information, not answers. We've learned where teams are thin. We've learned which young players deserve another look, and that's what I say, deserve another look. We've learned which quarterbacks still have work to do. That's Cam Ward. He has a lot of work to do out there on the field, but he did improve week 1 to week 2. We've learned which stars are getting healthier. George Kittle, that is a prime example. Which teams are losing those key players that look like it was going to make another push? Well, that's the Chargers. That's their center. Biadasz, who's now out for the season. Jake Slaughter is the backup center there. Are the Chargers going to make another move to bring someone else in? Question marks around these teams, what they're going to be able to do. Matt Perrault talked about Ashton Genty and how it probably isn't just a sprain there with his ankle, how it could be a high ankle sprain. We're not sure on that yet, and how he would be very cautious with fantasy around Ashton Genty. We got Jeremiah Love out of the lineup after his high ankle sprain. There's injuries across the board. There's question marks. And now we've got to question the depth of those teams, because when one player goes out, another player has to step up and in and get into those spots and make those differences out there on the field. Because soon, with these cuts, those 90 players aren't standing on the sideline. There's 53. And then the excuses completely disappear. There's no more, it's only preseason. No more, they're working things out. No more, the starters barely played. September puts every opinion that we had built in summer on trial. And I can't wait for it, you guys. I'm super excited for it. We'll be live here again Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be breaking down everything that you need to know going into week 3 here of preseason. Those guys that are on the bubble, those playmakers that you need to be watching out there. And hey, don't forget to watch Stripling, because the 49ers wide receiver out there, the rookie, he has made the conversation. So definitely have your eyes on him. But a huge thank you to Matt Perrault for joining me here today. Cleveland has its quarterback. I don't buy it. I don't give Deshaun Watson a long leash. Roster decisions are coming right away. This is hard for the players and the coaches as well. When you watch week 3 of preseason, remember these guys are fighting for their jobs, and let's keep everyone healthy. Let's see these guys give their best performances for sure. The preseason is almost behind us, and week 1 is getting so very close. I can hardly wait, you guys. Remember, here on Madden on the Line, Monday and Thursdays live at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll be breaking down as we go into the NFL season week 1. Mondays will be your opening lines. We'll be looking at the week ahead of us. We'll also be looking at that final game there on a Monday night. So you want to join me every Monday. Thursdays, we'll also be looking at that Thursday night game. We'll be looking where we're making adjustments from what we saw on Monday with those opening lines, where those lines moved, where now you can target it, because there's a big difference between a 3.5 on a Monday and a 5.5 on a Thursday, and where we're going to go with those bets. So don't just tune in on Monday for week 1 of NFL. You want to also tune in on the Thursday as well as we break down the changes in those lines, where we want to go, because remember, those lines matter. A half a point even matters out there. We'll be breaking down player props. We're going to be breaking down everything that you need to know in the NFL season, week in, week out, Monday and Thursdays. And like always, I'm going to be bringing in great guests to give you as much information as we can on these shows. Make this your home for NFL. This has been Madden on the Line. Read the market, bet the board, presented by CrossCheck Media on the Biz Talk Today TV network. You guys, thanks for joining me here. I'll see you back here Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern. I've got a great guest lined up. You don't want to miss it.